Hey everybody, I'm Phillip.
And I'm Justin.
And together we are Pajamas. We just watched the 2021 adaptation of Dune, the infamous sci-fi novel by Frank Herbert. I watched the older one, I think from the 80s, when I was little.
Mhm.
I remember like hardly anything about it because I was super young. So I went into this one being like, I knew about spice and I knew about blue eyes. And that was it going into this one. But yeah, we just watched it. Just wow.
Yes, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing special effects, and the music was beautiful.
The score by Hans Zimmer was fantastic. Like we even sat there during the credits just like listening to it. It was really cool. Like it had a really cool like Aborigine feel to it. They were using the
Didgeridoo.
yes, and to really good effect. So funny story. Normally when we do these, we record immediately after we watch. We just watched. We've said before, it's literal. This time we did not. We had to break for quick showers because we're going to be on camera. Justin wants to be as pretty as possible, which normally isn't difficult for him because he's pretty always anyway.
Yes, indeed I am.
But it gave us time to think and reflect and kind of, So here we are about half an hour later. And I mentioned that because I was in the shower. And due to my condition, you have to help me bathe sometimes, and you have to help me dry off. And I'm sitting there thinking in the shower, and I'm going to butcher his name. I'm sorry, but we go from Timothy Chalamet. You go from that to this. I'm sorry. You had 2.5 hours of just a beautiful man.
I'm actually glad that you agree that he's beautiful because, yes, when I saw him, yes, he was gorgeous.
Yeah, he is. He's in a movie you really want to see. That you want to see him in.
What?
Call Me by Your Name.
Oh, wait, now we have to see it.
By we, you mean you. I don't want to see it. Like I have no desire to see it. I will totally. I think I have it for you. Save to watch. I'm not interested in it. I'm sorry, but 100% you can watch it, of course.
All right.
So yeah, I was in the shower and I was like, "Oh man, I'm sorry. You have to go from just God's perfect creature to God's mistake."
I always choose you.
If he was like right there, it was like, "Run away with me, Justin."
But then what about you?
That'd be sad. We're gonna talk about Dune. We went off on a tangent.
Yes.
But yes, I was just thinking that in the shower. It's like a ha thing. Like you have to look at this, and like pretty much you have to look at the Baron. Like we just watched 2.5 hours of a very beautiful man. But back to the topic at hand. Not just was the man beautiful, the movie was beautiful.
I also liked it how they were able to intertwine culture into it.
Mm-hmm. What did you notice?
Well, one thing, for example, they had notions of hierarchy
Mm-hmm.
and of a sisterhood,
Mm-hmm.
a religious body.
Mm-hmm.
They even have a sort of messianic figure.
Yeah.
Which actually they even use the word Messiah. They
Mhm.
also use the word Mahdi, which is in the Islamic tradition.
Yeah, I think the second book, one of them is called Dune Messiah. So it fits in. But yeah, this was an all-star cast. Like we had Mr. Chalamet, Rebecca Ferguson, Jason Momoa, Zendaya, Javier Bardem, Batista's in this damn thing. Like, holy crap, Josh Brolin. There were so many people.
And they had such beautiful attire.
Oscar Isaac. Yeah, the costuming was fantastic. I wrote that early on in my notes. I have like I have like 4 pages of notes. Of course I do, because it was like 2.5 hours long. But it went by really fast. And then when it started, it said Dune Part 1. I'm like, okay, I didn't know this was going to be a 2-parter. I'm not arguing. I'm not mad at it. But I wasn't expecting it. Dune's a freaking beast of a book. So I was like, yeah, we're doing 2 parts to this? Awesome. Good. Kind of needs to be 2 parts. I mean, I wasn't sure if it was going to be like part 1 for like the first like hour and a half, then part 2 for like something would happen, it would fade to black and go Dune Part 2, and then go into the end. But we didn't get that, and I'm glad we didn't get that because there's so much story here. Obviously, that it could probably be 3 movies. The first book alone could probably be 3 movies. Everything just felt grand about it, and I like that. Like we talked about the score and the costuming and
Yes.
just the sets and everything just felt.
Yes. The way that it was portrayed, it was as if we were really in this particular culture,
Mm-hmm.
experiencing it.
Yeah, yeah.
The Fremens were very much like a desert dwelling people,
Mm-hmm.
and the House of Atreides, it reminded me very much of Spanish nobility,
Mm.
especially with its emphasis on the bull.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. To me, it felt like science fiction Game of Thrones because we had House Atreides, and then we had the Harkonnen who were on the planet of Arrakis. They were taken off of there by the Emperor, this mysterious figure, and House Atreides was put on there. But the whole thing was like a plot to get Harkonnen with this I forget the name of the army now, Sardakan or something like that, on their side to come back and kill them and take it back over. Like if you're the Emperor, just have them killed. But it would just felt so Game of Thrones, like treachery and deceit and backstabbing and all these pieces in play.
Yes.
But then again, this was first, so I could say that Game of Thrones reminds me of Dune a lot. But this particular storytelling.
Or like how The Lord of the Rings actually reminds me of Wagner's Der Ring des Nibelungen.
Hmm.
Both involve a magic ring of power.
Okay, there you go.
And well, Tolkien denied that it was based on Wagner, even though Wagner wrote it first. It does seem rather similar.
Well, I mean, the author of the Hunger Games vehemently denies that she even heard of Battle Royale. She was like, "What's that?"
I see.
I don't know if she's really like that, but she hasn't. She was like, "I didn't know about that." So yeah, but in this instance, not really. As far as Game of Thrones and Dune goes, it's been in storytelling for a long time. You know, powerful people of wealth and nobility and politics and
Yes, not only in mythology, but also in history.
exactly. So, but the most recent thing I could think of was Game of Thrones in relation to what it felt like. Like this could have been like a spin-off of Game of Thrones. Speaking of spin-off things, this could easily have been like a TV series on Netflix. I think. There's so much Dune story to be had that they really could have done like 11 episode 1 hour each.
Hmm.
Like, can you imagine that? We have 11 hours of the first book. Oh. And then
It,
season 2 is the second book.
that way, they could probably put everything that's in the book onto the screen.
Because as you know, I like to go into things as blind as possible. And I couldn't be 100% this time because I saw the first adaptation of the book when I was a kid, like super little. So like, I just knew the 2 things that I spoke of. So I wasn't like completely like, I don't know what this is about. But I was very much surprised at the casting and just how, as we said, how grand it felt and just the spectacle. Especially when we talk about the costuming and the set design and stuff. Everything felt so purposeful. And you could say that with anything. You could say that with like Jupiter Ascending. But this felt like it was done really well. Like the costuming was cool, but it was done really well. Like the costuming of the Fremen people was awesome. And then you have like everyone had like a different look to them. Like then we go to the Sardakans or whatever they were. They were the military, the militant arm of the emperor. And then you have the look of the Benner Jesuits, like the sisterhood kind of thing. They looked fucking cool. And the main one, like the main, that was fucking cool looking. You know, very habit nunnery looking.
Yes, I assumed that she was some kind of mother superior of this group.
Mm-hmm. And then, you know, you have like the soldiers in Atreides, and then you have the nobility in Atreides. Like everyone just had like, it was just the costuming. Hope won some awards because it was really, really well done.
It was sci-fi, but also fit the situation well.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Nothing looked out of place. Like, yeah. Now that you say that, it's a good way to put it. If it was science fiction, but it was also fashion.
It didn't look very outlandish simply because it was, well, like many other sci-fi things may.
Yeah, like look, Fifth Element comes to mind when we talk about that. Fantastic movie, love it. The outfits were very, futuristic. You know, they were supposed to be. That was the point. But this wasn't. This fit. Like everything fit. Nothing stuck out in a bad way. Even like the stormtrooper kind of people, like the army for every single different house worked. And the look of the Harkonnens was awesome. Like they were all bald, like that really sleek black. Like it just looked really cool. I just thought it was well done as far as costuming went. But yeah, there's a lot here. Like there's just so much treachery and deceit. Like the Harkonnens then invade with that army, and the idea is that they would kill the Duke, and then the mother and the son were supposed to live according to Mother Superior.
Mm-hmm.
But they found their loophole. Well, if we drop them in the desert, technically we didn't kill them. Which, yes.
Even he dares not to go against a vow.
Makes you wonder what's going to happen when she finds out. She is very powerful. Holy crap. So yeah, then they're exiled and on the run. And one thing I wrote in my notes, I'll say it now, that I liked about that was normally in stories when someone invades and whatever the ruling people are escape, they immediately, or they escape to refuge. And then they plot their return and revenge and all that. They were constantly on the run.
Mm-hmm.
They ran to here, then they had to run to here, then to here. They were found. They're being chased. They jump into like the plane thing. They're still being chased. They go into the storm. You know, like that. It's just. It wasn't until they met the Fremens. Oh, so I think it's Furman. I'm sorry. I'm saying Fremen. I think it's Furman. My apologies. There's a lot of foreign words too. But when they finally got to the Furmans,
mm-hmm.
then there was more conflict and stuff. But it was just then they were done being chased after they flew into the dust storm.
I really liked the look of the plane. It was like a mechanical dragonfly.
Yep. I wrote in my notes the same thing. I said it was cool that they modeled the aircraft after dragonflies because that makes sense. I like the idea that they escaped, but they weren't safe. Even up to the end. Only at the end were they safe. Like the very end when they were on the trek with the Furmans. Only then were they safe. So I thought it was cool. It wasn't like sabotaged and people are coming after us and we're running away. And now we're okay. Now we can plot our stuff. And now here's the revenge. We win. There's the end of the movie. It's like we gotta run. I like that. It was that sense of like.
Could that voice of theirs be used only on one person at a time, or can it be used for a group?
I don't know. Guess we'll find out. Cool idea, though.
I was actually wondering when they were with the Furman, why didn't they use the voice on them when they felt threatened?
I don't know. I don't know why the mom didn't. I thought she was going to.
Yes, at least her, because she was much more of an expert.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe she thought if it is only one per person, then she does it, the others see it, they're dead.
Or maybe they were too exhausted from the immense amount of traveling.
That could be too. I mean, she is pregnant after all, and running through the desert away from giant fucking sandworms. Eek.
I suppose that, yes, under the circumstances, she would definitely at least be tired after all of that.
Oh, yeah. I'd be tired. I'm not pregnant. I just look like it. This felt like a blockbuster movie, but it didn't feel like a sellout blockbuster movie. It felt like it had a heart to it and a pulse, and there was gravitas to everything they did. The 2.5 hours flew by, and that's someone who cannot usually sit through that long of a thing without a break or two. And I took no breaks in this one. Neither one of us did, actually. So, yeah. I want to go to the notes. All right, let's go to the notes.
Phillip's notes.
See what we haven't talked about. I'm not going to go through the entire plot. I like to do a plot summary, kind of, with my notes. We kind of gave the plot summary, and like, we have this ruling family. They were set up. The surviving people run away. They're being chased. And we haven't even touched on his visions yet and all that stuff. Like, we'll just see what we can do. In the beginning, he's at the table. Well, not in the very beginning, but in the beginning moments of the movie, he's at the table with his mom, and she's like, "Command me to give you the water," and I'm like, "If it command your mom," that's a little weird. Then we find out, I think she was like the Duke's concubine, or not mistress, but like because he said I should have married you.
Yes, I did hear someone mention her as a concubine.
Yeah, so interesting that someone like a duke or the ruler of a house doesn't need to have a marital spouse. Because in Game of Thrones universe, Paul is essentially Paul Snow. So, but here it's fine. So there you go.
It also may help, though, that they're nobility instead of royalty.
Mm,
That may
yeah,
that may possibly be it.
that's true. Yeah.
Although, yes, in royalty also did have those, but they would also very likely be disqualified because, well, anything that came of it, because of not being officially married. Thus, they would not be in the official line of succession.
Right, exactly. Then we learn about spice. Spice is a hallucinogen that, if you're exposed to it, turns your eyes a very pretty shade of blue. But it's also a space guide. It can help you travel through space. So I thought it was kind of weird, but
it helped to actually portray both sides' arguments. I could actually see it from both sides of why one side would want to keep the spice there and because it's sacred, but also from the other side, economically speaking, without it, space travel is basically a fiction.
I think they could have went to a little more detail on that. Like, why is space travel impossible without spice? Like, why? It enables you to you can travel in space anyway. I know. I might be missing something. I probably am. Let me know down below what I'm missing as far as that goes. But yeah, then we learn later that Arrakis was supposed to be turned into like this fertile kind of paradise. They're going to get the water under the sands and
yes,
transform the landscape. But then the spice was discovered,
and then everyone wanted to keep it a desert.
Go where the oil is. I mean, the spice is. There I wrote, costuming is fantastic. It is my 5th note down. 4 pages of notes.
This actually does remind me of the spice trade, which in turn reminds me of imperialism, which actually puts this even more into a historical perspective.
Well, they referenced imperial
yes.
things in the movie, yeah. And I wrote in the notes that Arrakis was taken from the Harkonnen, given to Atreides to start a war. Like when it was discovered that the Emperor was doing this on purpose because he felt threatened. So it's just like, man, what a show of power. I'm threatened by this house rising, so I'm going to take this one out.
It's as if maybe he knows.
Maybe, yeah. Because, I mean, they'd had it for like decades and decades and decades. They had made a lot of money from the spice trade. So, like, they didn't know what was up. Like, why would you take that away and give it to somebody else? And then give them an army to go back and take it back? Like, yeah. I did like that the Duke wanted to have the Furman as allies. Like you say, he's like, I'm not going to go to subjugate them. I'm not going to go to, like, terrorize them. I'm going to go to try and make peace with them. So in that first meeting he had with Stilgar, where he spit on the table, and they're like, thank you for your, like, that looks like an insult to us, but that's actually...
Fortunately, there was someone there who was aware of their culture and reassured that, no, this isn't an insult.
Jason Momoa, without a beard, very strange with that one, very strange. And then we get introduced to the Truth Sayer, who is there to talk to Paul about his dreams. He puts his hand in a box, and she has a poison needle at his neck.
That was very suspenseful.
Yeah.
And what's in the box? Pain.
It was a very cool scene.
Somehow pain itself was able to be put into this box.
It's one of my favorite, if not my favorite scene of the movie. It was just so interesting. And
I actually, when I saw this, I thought that it would be something that you'd be able to relate to because of it being a sort of test of perseverance through pain. She said that a wild animal will gnaw its arm off to get out of a trap. What will you do? He persevered.
Yeah, she said if he took her hand out of the box, you die. He also had the needle to his neck.
Yes.
He also dies. It's the that idea that the mom is passing her abilities, the knowledge from this sisterhood or whatever onto him.
Which was actually supposed to be a secret.
Yeah, yeah. Because she even says, so much talent wasted on a male. She said, I told you to birth only females. And you thought you could make the the male messiah, I assume was what she was talking about. There's way too many words for my American peon brain to work through. But yeah, we find out that, this is kind of not supposed to be happening. This is supposed to be like a female centric thing, but he is learning the ways. I like the line where he's told, you inherit a lot of power. He says, because I'm the Duke's son. And she says, no, because you're Jessica's son. I was like, ooh. She says, you have more than one birthright.
Indeed.
That was good. I like that. Because how often in nobility, not even nobility, like, in royalty, you have, there's the queen, the princess, there's power. With nobility, how much power does a female have?
It's usually a patrilineal thing, but
Yeah.
in this case, there's a matrilineal.
Yeah, I thought that was cool because you have more than one birthright. So the woman has just as much power as the man in giving something to the offspring. In this instance, I thought it was cool. That kind of played off of that a little bit. And I love that line so much. We find out that whatever this Messiah creature is supposed to be has a mind that can bridge space and time, past and future.
That's very powerful.
Yeah. And he even, I've referenced in my notes, he even says something later about what he could do. Then when they arrive on Arrakis, the Furmans are chanting as he's walking. They're like, what are they saying? Lisanel Gaib? Which is basically his Messiah. So even they're like, they know something's up. So it's interesting that they would automatically think that he was the Messiah right off the bat. We had another instance of, like, there's a lot of prophecy. There's a lot of, stories in the Furman tradition, much like an indigenous tribe would have their own mythologies, their own stories and stuff, their own all that, own prophecies. I'll say philosophies. They would have their own philosophies, but I meant prophecies. Their own prophecies. When the one lady is checking their desert outfits, I forget what they were called now. He had his boots done in a certain way. She's like, who told you to do that? And he's like, well, I just thought it was how it should be done. She's like, okay. And then she says, he shall know your ways as though born to them.
Yes, another sign.
Yeah. So, and then we have our first real moment of tension, because it's been kind of tense. Like they're going off their homeworld to this other place. They have to uproot their lives and go here. But then they're kind of touring the planet they now own. And the first real tension, they're going towards the spice harvester and the sandworm is coming. Like that was like, because the thing stopped working, that was supposed to pick it up and carry it away. And the Duke wants to go in and rescue the people. Painting him as this like noble person.
He meant what he said when he wanted to ally with the Furman.
And also he's like, screw the spice. Let's get the people. And then we're like, what? The spice is it's money, it's power, it's wealth. Screw that. Human life is more important.
Which showed them that this is no ordinary noble.
Yeah.
He isn't like the many that came before.
Mm-hmm. Or the one they've been subjugated under the boot of. And then the Duke knows something's up. And he even says, like, I didn't think it would happen this soon or so quickly. But he asks the mom, please tell me you'll take care of Paul. He says, I'm not asking his mother. I'm asking the Benner Jesuit. And she was like, oh, because he even said, I've trusted you. Even when you were doing your stuff in the shadows, I still trusted you. I like that he knew about her this entire time, but let her be her and do her thing. Knowing full well she's probably teaching their son, the ways and all that. I thought it was cool. Then there's Double Cross. The doctor double crosses them so he can get his wife out of the clutches of the Baron. But then more double cross. He's like, I will set you free like I set her free. And cuts his head off. But not before. The poison tooth.
Yes.
The doctor says, I'm going to put this back here. when the time is right or whatever, bite on it and it will kill you, but everyone else too. And yeah, he's like in the room as he's like naked in the chair because the Baron was very much like a gluttonous
Blob, like
yeah that could like float. Has some kind of something on his spine, which I'm assuming it's helping him do that. I would like something that could glow and fix my spine. Sign me up. Yeah, he's like the Baron's like what? And he puts on his like they have like these force field suit things that they can wear that like deflect attacks. They glow. They don't glow. They like shimmer blue when they're normal. Then they go red when bad things happen. And puts that on and or clicks it so it like force field leans in and then bites the tooth and everyone freaking dies. But I knew the Baron couldn't be dead. I knew it because we need a big bad. We need someone for Paul to avenge against. But Baron is big bad number 2 because the big bad is the Emperor. And then speaking of, the Paul makes a play for the throne. He says the Emperor has only daughters. And then the one lady, the cool lady, I forget her name, she says she's like, you're a fugitive, but on the run, like
a bit of a reality check.
Yeah. I mean, fair play to him for thinking of it, but
think of everything that happened. The Emperor wants them dead. So why would he then give his daughter to someone that he wants dead?
Yeah, exactly. And I talked before about Paul being the Messiah and the power he could have. He says, as Emperor, I can make Arrakis a paradise with a wave of my hand. And I'm like, I do wish they spent a little more time on Paul believing he's the Messiah, or the Furmans believing he's like everyone just like accepts he's the Messiah in this world, and maybe that's how it was written. But it's just like it was like it was like if you went on the internet tomorrow and said, "Hello, my name is Justin, but now I am the new Jesus Christ." Everybody's like, "Oh, of course you are. You were the new Jesus Christ," and they were like, "Jesus Christ." I think we took a little more time. Believe me, I know how I sound. We needed more time in a 2.5 hour movie to tell. I just think flush out, like have him doubt himself. Have these people not, like, yes, at the end, the one lady he keeps seeing in his visions was like, I don't think you are the Messiah. But everyone else seems to, like, he lands on the planet. Messiah. I could be missing something, as I've said before. If I am, let me know in the comments below.
Maybe because of how they live, they're desperate to cling on to what hope they have.
Maybe, yeah.
That could be at least one factor of many that's driving this.
I don't know, maybe. But then we get the badass fight scene with Duncan against all of the like mercenary people. Dude went down like a boss. Like, holy crap. That was cool. Like, they stab him. He's like, I ain't done yet. Keeps taking him out. Very cool. Very cool.
That was very impressive.
And I do like also, with as little time as we had, because it's a big, giant cast. Huge cast.
It's a big story.
Exactly. We still had enough time to, like, get the relationships to mean something. So when Duncan falls, you know how important it is to Paul.
Yes.
Even though we only had, like, a handful of scenes with them together, it was still like, oh no, this is sad. Even more so than usual. I was sad that the one lady, the cool lady, I forget her name, the one that was helping them, I was sad that she died the way she did. When she had the hooks, I was like, you're going to fucking ride the sandworm, aren't you? Like a fucking just mega boss. But then she gets killed by the mercenary people.
But at least there's one less thing that she could do. Have them go down with her.
Yes, she was banging the sand and the worm swallowed them all. When cool people died in this movie, they died fucking awesome. Duncan, I don't know who looking it up now, she was Herald of the Change. Yes, we'll call her Herald. So yeah, when Herald went down, it was awesome. Just like Duncan. When Duncan went down, it was awesome.
Well, like that, much later in the film, when Paul gets into the fight, the girl says to him that if he's to die, at least die with dignity. And yes, these main characters definitely do die with much dignity.
Yes, they do. Also thought it was weird, though, that, like, his visions keep telling him what to do. Like, I reference it here. He has this, like, the vision of the voice telling him to just, like, let go. as they're flying into the storm, as they're in the storm actually, and everything's like because all this sand and like they said earlier that the sandstorms cut through metal. They're that strong. I thought it was funny when he's just like they're flying. He just like let's go with the controls and sits back. And his mom's like, "Yep, okay." I'd be like, "Ah, what are you doing? Put the controls on, fly." But then he has a vision later when he's fighting that guy before he fights him, where the voice tells him, "Embrace, accept death." Almost, pretty much, only through death can you be reborn. Is what it sounds like. She sounds like she's saying, and it showed him dying by the guy's hand. So I thought he was going to essentially throw the fight to make this come true. And then I thought in his other visions, it showed that same guy talking with him and like, I will show you the ways of the sand. And he walked out with him. So are they going to bring him back somehow? Because his visions seem to come true. The voice was telling him. So maybe, again, maybe I'm misreading. It totally could be. We just watched it, so it's like.
Well, it could also be because the future isn't written in stone, that these visions these aren't things of what will be, but may be.
Yeah, but the vision said, hey, stop flying the dragonfly, and he did. And he just floated or he just went until it like brought them up from the upswing of the wind to 5,000. They start flying again.
Yes.
He listened to the visions before. It was like the vision showed him getting stabbed by the dude. Like essentially he's going to be stabbed by this damn worm tooth. Maybe that's his resurrection. Very biblical. You know, he's going to rise as the Messiah. I thought would it be too soon for it to happen? Yes. But due to the vision he had, I thought he was supposed to actually die there and then be reborn. And that would be the beginning of his journey. So we'll see what happens.
It's still only part 1. Maybe part 2 will give more information.
I mean, I wouldn't be questioning it if he hadn't listened to the visions before and it worked out. And this time he seemed to go against it and then kill the guy that I saw in the visions with him earlier in the movie. You know, talking with him and then showing him, like, I will show you the ways of the desert and all that kind of stuff. So, but the desert is a very powerful place. Maybe they know something that we don't and they can bring that guy back.
Or that he is, because he's the catalyst that will lead him on that journey to that knowledge.
Yeah.
And in that metaphorical sense, he is.
Yeah, but they showed him talking. They showed them walking out in the desert together, so it feels like it's more literal. Like with the fight, like one could say that the fight was like him being shown the attacks so he could avoid them, but the voice hadn't said, essentially, you know, die with dignity, die, you know, just embrace it, embrace death. And then even later when he finally met the woman in his visions, it showed her stabbing him too. But it never painted it as a bad thing. It was like, this is something that has to happen. It's either showing that he's going to be stabbed with one of these worm tooth sacred dagger things. Well, he will be. I 100% know he will be. But each time it was like, okay, well, who's going to do it? Because it showed it with her. It showed it with this other guy. Like, when do we finally, like... So I'm just a little muddied about the visions and, like, when is it to be followed as law versus this is more metaphorical. So, yeah.
That's, I'm afraid, the nature of prophecies. They're mysterious.
But these prophecies seem to be like, do this, and then this will happen. Let go of the controls, and the plane you'll be okay.
Yes, as if it's much more than a vision. This is actually a voice that's actually guiding.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. He's being guided, not so much suggested. So I'm a little unclear. When is it supposed to be law, and when is it supposed to be like up to interpretation? So hopefully we find out more. We will, but hopefully it is more concrete for me in part 2. And then the dragonfly thing crashes. Great shot from inside the actual aircraft itself, plummeting through the sand. Fantastic shot. I wanted to call it out. And then eventually they have this really cool thing where they're crossing the sand. The big sandworm comes out and it's like, blah, right above them. Holy crap. That is terrifying. You just know that's going to go somewhere in part 2. The Furman find them. And the person's going to take Paul, leave his mom. But then that gets resolved. So they can take them both back. But the guy that's supposed to take them back, the guy that was in his visions, as far as I know, if I remember correctly, says I don't want to do that. You know, they're outsiders. They're off-worlders. So he invokes a fight, like some kind of sacred tradition fight kind of thing.
A duel to the death.
Yeah. Very much, again, like Game of Thrones, when Tyrion had to pick his champion to fight for him. And he shows the cool guy with the pole arm that was just kicking the shit out of the mountain. No spoilers there, but Go watch that fight. So then, he's like, who's going to be your champion? Who's going to be the champion for the woman? And Paul steps up, and that's when the woman from his visions gives him one of the daggers and said, this is from my family. This is very important. It's important. It's a big deal for you to die with this whole, in battle like this. But he's fighting them, and he's like, do you yield? And they're like, ha 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 ha. And I like that. Like, he was trying to show, compassion. And then his mom's like, he's never killed a man before. He just knows sparring. He doesn't know fighting. So that was a very interesting dynamic. And eventually he does, which stabbed him right in the back. Not in a bad way. They were just in the back. He was like, pow. And I hit my mic. And he just, stabs him in the back, and the guy falls. I'm like, damn. Did not see that coming.
I would have liked it if they had shown a bit more of the traumatic experience. That is because usually, in many cases, a person's first kill is going to be very
traumatizing.
Yes, traumatizing.
Yeah. I agree with that too. Because I said it was just like, oh yes, you're one of us now. I do like the idea of life for a life. That's cool. So you're part of us now because you basically take his place. It was a very modern remake of Mortal Kombat, but better. Like, you take the life, you get the prize, kind of thing.
But he was barely even shivering from that experience, and as the mother said, it's his first time.
I'm very interested to see where that goes, because now they're on their way to one of their camps or habitations. So we're trying to go to the one that Duncan had been to. And as they're walking, they see someone actually riding a sandworm, which I thought was really cool. And that's where we end. They are on their pilgrimage. Because the mom wanted them to go off-world, like take us, help us get off of here. And Paul says, no, this is my path into the desert, which calls back on when he was having the talk with the Duke. I don't want to rule. And I love the part where the Duke says, no matter what you choose, you're always going to be where you're supposed to be, my son. Which I was like, oh. Because usually people are like, no, you must rule, you must carry on the legacy, and
And he even said to him that actually they do it because they're called to.
So it was cool that he finally found his calling.
Yes.
This was his calling. These are the visions he's had the whole time. I do hope we get more of an explanation behind the visions, behind why he's having them, what they mean. As I said before, why is it sometimes he is following them like prophecy? Other times it seems to be like up to interpretation. But again, I could be missing something. So.
And of course, when not to use the voice. Because it would seem like this is a very powerful weapon, so why not use it with every sort of confrontation? I'm not sure what the rules are for the voice.
Yeah. Well, from the prophecy, he's destined to become like fucking powerful. If you can like bridge like time and space and past and the future, I'm hoping that what happens lives up to this hype, because that's some fucking power. I mean, you wouldn't be seen as a messiah automatically for some reason, out of nowhere for no reason. So, but I do like he tells people, he knows things about people he shouldn't, and I like that. It kind of gives you a clue that he does have some kind of third eye, sixth sense, kind of exactly kind of thing. So
some sort of telepathic mind reading powers.
Something, yeah. I do think they could have developed that a little more. I said the Messiah thing, I think, could have been cultivated a little better, but that would really be my only nitpick, if anything. I mean, even that's like, it's fine. Sorry, I'm holding my throat like this. It's the only way right now that I can talk without my glandular issue becoming so problematic I cannot speak. But yeah, that's all for my notes. Everything else are for my patrons over on Patreon. So yeah, I cannot wait for part 2.
Neither can I.
Like, hold it, it's not going to be out for another couple of years. The longer the wait, the sweeter the experience.
I suppose that, yes, that is true.
If you haven't watched it and you watched this far, awesome, thank you. But also go check it out. Considering I know like 1% of the older adaptation of the book, this was just really well done. I think they could have spent more time with the powers and the abilities and the Messiah stuff and all that.
And I thought that they could have gone more with what was going on inside of him.
Yes. Yeah, like
his
the
inner voice.
the struggles, and
Yes.
yeah, they could have done a little better job with the voices and the visions and what they meant and what. But we have a whole other part 2 to get to. So hopefully, I said in time we do learn. But if we don't, if it turns out that this was like the introduction, they could have done a better job of introducing and exploring these ideas, not just pushing the Game of Thrones plot along, but also the struggle, and the maturation and like the esoteric nature of it all. But even then, solid movie on all fronts. From obviously we talk about costuming, the score, cinematography. It was beautiful. Not as beautiful as Mr. Chalamet, but damn
Still
close.
beautiful.
Yeah, damn close. And I'm sure there's something I'm probably forgetting, but hopefully I can take notes and pick it up in 2 years when part 2 comes out. In the meantime, is there anything else you'd like to add? Alrighty. That's going to wrap this one up. I clearly need to not talk for a while. So as always, I don't have a fancy outro. So simply say, thank you for watching and putting up with whatever the hell this is with me. I don't know. And we will see you in the next one. Until then, goodbye.
Goodbye.